Welcome to Demand and Disrupt, the Disability Podcast. Here, we will learn to advocate for ourselves and each other. This podcast is supported with funds from the Advocato Press, based in Louisville, Kentucky. Welcome to Demand and Disrupt, a disability podcast. I am your host, Kimberly Parsley, and today I am here with someone very special. I am here with Sam Moore. How are you, Sam?
Well, I'm glad somebody thinks I'm special, Kimberly. I'm doing great, and it's an honor to be back here on the Demand and Disrupt for my second time.
Yes, this is your second time. Now, for those who might not remember, Sam is he's a WKU graduate. That's the most important thing.
Go Tops.
Go Tops. He's from Henderson, Kentucky, and he does a podcast called Blabbing in the Bluegrass, which is one of my go-to podcasts that I listen to every week. Love it. If you haven't already, you should check that out. And a couple of weeks ago, as I was listening to Sam's podcast, he did an episode on Medicaid waivers. And so Sam, tell me how that came about. Tell me about that episode.
Well, I try to keep an open mind to pretty much everything on my podcast, as long as there's a Kentucky connection there. And Sarah Duncan is the lady's name. She was actually my special guest. And I enjoy interviewing healthcare professionals that have made a difference in people's lives here in the state from time to time. And Sarah is the director of waiver services with GRAD, which is a Green River Area Development District. I know you're somewhat affiliated with Brad down there in Bowling Green, aren't you?
That's correct. That's the Barren River Area Development District. Yeah, so Barren same kind River. Of thing, different place.
Yeah, same kind of thing. So I thought it'd be cool for her being, because that program, the waiver program, has really been a godsend to a lot of people. So I thought I would ask her to come on and talk about the different types and the qualifications. And yeah, she was great.
It was so informative, just so much information for me. I work at the Center for Accessible Living and stuff I didn't know, and just also for our listeners. So that's why what you're going to hear here shortly is just a re-airing of Sam's episode that he did with her.
I always enjoy hanging out here in the podcast world with Kimberly, and I've even had her and Lisa McKinley on my show, and we talked about theirs. So we've had a few joint efforts going on. But like she said, my podcast is Blabbing in the Bluegrass, and I like to feature restaurants and musicians from Kentucky, authors, athletes. Like I said, I try to keep an open mind to pretty much everything. As long as there's a connection centered around Kentucky there. And I've also done educators and healthcare professionals. And so I've got the podcast that I do. And I also, here in Henderson, host trivia at a couple of different pizza places. So Kimberly, if you're ever in Henderson on a Monday or a Thursday night, chances are I will be hosting. Monday nights I host at Rock House on the River, and Thursday nights I host at a place called Fire Dome here at Henderson. So Kimberly, I think you'd like both places if you like pizza and wings, which I'm sure you do.
I tell you, pub trivia, that just sounds like so much fun, and people take it very seriously, don't they?
Oh yeah, that you'd be surprised, even though they may be friends that are talking and mingling amongst themselves before the game, but then they split up and form their teams, and they're competitive during the games.
And you MC that, right?
Right, and I come up with the different questions each week, which is a challenge, but a fun challenge that I enjoy. And
so how many questions do you have to come up with?
Well, there's 4 different rounds, and they're generally random categories each week, and then 4 questions in each round. And it's random trivia categories, pretty much. It's random knowledge. I'll have 4 different ones. The only time we ever have like an overarching theme is like on the trivia before Halloween, we'll do a Halloween trivia usually, and then last one before Christmas, we'll do a Christmas trivia. I know by now a lot of people are probably sick and tired of hearing about the election, but one trivia category that I did Monday night centered around election shortcomers, and they were people who had run for either president of the United States or governor of Kentucky that came up short. Maybe they were runner up or shorter up than that, but the bottom line, they just didn't win. And we tested the participants' knowledge and recollection of that. So,
and did they do well? Did people know a lot of that, or was it all new?
Yes, a sort of a mixed bag. I think some of it went back um, a little far for people. I'll test one on you, Kimberly. Do you remember who Bill Clinton defeated on the Republican side when he ran again in '96 for the second time?
Yes, I do. I'm old, so I have to think about it. But um,
you had graced the world with your presence.
oh yeah, I was voting. I was a voter then. That would have been my first election, actually. The first election that I voted in. Yes, that was my first time to vote, and Bill Clinton defeated Bob Dole.
There you go. You took it. Yeah, I think. Yeah, that was not my hardest one, but I think some people had to think about that for a second, and it might have been a little harder since the game was sort of on the line. But
Bob Dole did lose that election, but definitely a proponent for people with disabilities overall.
Was he? See, I was only 8 years old at the time, so I really didn't get to know him too well.
Yes. He was. I believe there was even an adapt did a sit-in. I believe one of our recent guests on the podcast talked about in Senator Dole at the time's office, and so they weren't going to leave until he threw his support behind the ADA, and which then did come into law in 1990. So
I'll tell you what, he definitely gets props from me for being all for and all supportive of the disability community.
Right. Yes, exactly. So very timely that you threw that question out of me, just out of thin air. Thanks for that, Sam.
I'm all about curveballs, dealing them and taking them.
Did not prepare me for that at all, but hey, that's how we roll. So thank you, Sam, for joining me, for the work that you do on Blabbing in the Bluegrass. And guys, you're going to be hearing more from Sam Moore in the future. And if you want to reach out to Sam, you can always listen to his podcast, but you can send an email to demandanddisrupt@gmail.com, and I will pass those emails along to Sam.
Absolutely. Yeah. demandanddisrupt@gmail.com or bluegrassblabbing@gmail.com, whichever's easiest for you to remember.
There you go. All right. And now, so Sam, intro this episode for us.
All righty. Well, as Kimberly said, this is Sarah Duncan. She is the director of waiver services. She was a guest on my show about a month or so ago, and we talked about the Medicaid waiver program. And so she's going to describe the different aspects of it and the qualifications. Some of you might qualify and maybe not even be aware of it, or maybe you know somebody who would qualify and maybe not be aware of it. So we're going to talk to Sarah here, and this is a full show, so there'll be a bluegrass brain buster, my trivia question at the beginning, and then you hang out while Sarah and I are talking, and you'll get the answer at the end. So I hope you enjoy, and thanks so much for having me back on here, Kimberly.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Here's our interview.
The hard work and dedication of our healthcare professionals throughout the state certainly deserves more recognition and attention than it often gets, which is why we do a little thing around here every so often called the Healthcare Hero Spotlight. And in it today, yes, Mischief, my cat is all excited yet again. You know, when she's excited about my topic, she always climbs up here, tries to climb on my lap, or gets close beside me. But anyhow, we are going to talk to Sarah Duncan. She is the Director of Waiver Services from GRADD, G-R-A-D-D. That stands for Green River Area Development District. And the Waiver Services Program has been a real blessing to many people, yet there are still many that undoubtedly would qualify for the program that aren't familiar with it. Now, it includes two types of waivers. There's a home and community-based waiver, and then there is what is called the Michelle P waiver. What are the similarities and differences? Sarah will take us through those. She will also describe what inspired the Waiver Services Program in the first place, and she will touch on eligibility requirements and the process of enrollment. It's going to be fun. It's going to be informative. So buckle up for Blabbing in the Bluegrass, Season 10, Episode 17. Kentucky features so much more than basketball and horses. We're home to scenic spectacles and one-of-a-kind golf courses. If boating, fishing, dining, or music is your pleasure, we'll guide you to the sights and sounds that you will truly treasure. 'Cause we're blabbing in the bluegrass. There's nothing here to hide, 'cause we're saying it with pride. Just a blabbing in the bluegrass. With knowledge of the state you're sure to appreciate. Yes, we're blabbing in the bluegrass. Where musicians furnish talent and great whiskey cools your palate. Just a blabbing in the bluegrass. With a fit for every taste, precious time is not to waste. From Prestonville to Prestonsburg, Princeton to Pride, we do what we do each week with pride and enthusiasm. We fit this great commonwealth just like a glove, if not better. Hear it only here on Blabbing in the Bluegrass as we explore and celebrate all people and all things Kentucky. With me, Sam Moore, got the steaming hot cup of coffee to my immediate left in case you were worried about it. I tell you, you need it on a day like today when there's a little crispness in the air, but I'm not complaining because 'tis the season, and you know, when you combine cool weather with hot coffee, it is truly an all-American combination, to say the least. Now, we talk about doing what we do with pride and enthusiasm, but we also have great guests on a weekly basis who help me to make this show a reality. And this week's guest is no exception. She's great. No, don't tell her I said that. Her name is Sarah Duncan, and she serves as Director of Waiver Services. Now, if you're not familiar with that or what it entails, don't feel bad. I have noticed that there are considerable gaps in our knowledge of the Waiver Services Program, which is why we are spotlighting it today. And of course, Sarah works with GRADD, Green River Area Development District, which is based in Owensboro, but these services are offered all throughout the state, so even if you are not located in GRADD's territory, you can take the info that you gain from Sarah and apply it to your area, because chances are, even if you don't qualify for this program, you probably know someone or multiple someones who would qualify for the program, whether they be in your family or friends, because I tell you, this program has benefited countless individuals, but not nearly enough due to the knowledge gap. But we're going to do what we can to change that this week, and we're so glad you're here because you're going to learn a lot and enjoy the heck out of the learning process. So we're going to get to Sarah in just moments, but before we do, I do have, as per usual, a Bluegrass Brain Buster. We try to do one of these on a weekly basis, so you'll get the question now while Sarah and I are doing our thing. You can think on it, but don't think too hard. We don't want you getting distracted and missing pertinent information that you would definitely regret missing, and we will clear up any confusion with regards to the answer in the program's final segment. So, since we are spotlighting a healthcare hero this week, I wanted to know, what is the oldest hospital in the state of Kentucky? Again, which hospital has the distinction, and it's still in operation, by the way, which hospital has the distinction of being the oldest in the Commonwealth of Kentucky? You get the wheel spinning. We will let you know in the closing minutes of the show. Sam Moore now presents a kind and courageous healthcare hero. The Medicaid waiver program has really meant a lot to a lot of people, and it could mean a lot to a lot more if they only knew about it. That is a big reason why we invited this special guest on to the program today. She is the director of waiver services with GRAD, and if you don't personally qualify for this program, like we told you up top, odds are you know somebody or a bunch of somebodies that would, whether they need, special in-home services, respite care, supported employment. This program may be just the ticket to what you or those people are after and need. So here to tell us all about it, how the program first came to be, and the two waivers encompassed within the program, and how we might qualify. Let's make welcome from the GRAD office in Owensboro, KY, none other than Sarah Duncan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This is a great program, Sarah, and I'm so excited to enlighten our listeners on it. Now, you proudly serve as its director of waiver services over there at GRAD. Now, it's based in Owensboro, obviously, but for those that don't know, why don't you tell us the counties that the Green River Area Development District includes, Sarah?
Okay, we cover 7 counties across the region. We're kind of the northwestern area of Kentucky, and we cover Henderson, Union, Webster, Hancock, and Davis.
I'll tell you, I'm impressed you were able to reel those off so easily. I'm sure you've done it plenty of times, but anyhow, this is a position you probably didn't know would exist in your early life. But tell me about your career interests as a child, and describe what fueled such career interests, Sarah.
So really, I had to think back on this, Sam. It's hard because I'm older, but
No.
really, I remember wanting to be a marine biologist whenever I was a kid. And then I realized I'd have to move somewhere else, and I didn't want to leave Kentucky or Henderson. So I decided to just forget about that. And then as I was at the community college getting my associate's degree, they gave me or let me take one of those career tests. And that test told me that I should look into the helping profession. So any profession that could help others is where that led me. And then, of course, that led me to my degree in psychology from USI.
Yeah, so not too many marine biology openings in the greater Henderson area. So, it's nothing wrong with dreaming big, but I'd
Yes.
say that you ended up where you needed to end up for sure, and that's a springboard into our next item here. As you just alluded to, you went to University of Southern Indiana as a college student after you graduated from high school. You said you majored in psychology. So let's talk a little bit about that more so, and elaborate on your studies there on the west side of Evansville, along with the career exposure you gained to supplement the books there, Miss Duncan.
Okay, so I went to the community college for my first 2 years and transferred to USI, and I got a bachelor's in psychology and then a minor in sociology. while I was taking a class at the college there, we had a man come in and speak to us about the Southwestern Indiana Mental Health Center. And he talked about some of the jobs that they had available. One of those was a mental health technician. And so I applied for that position and got that and worked part-time while I was getting my degree. And pretty much what that was is we worked in group homes for people that had been released from the state hospital and had mental illness. And that job really showed me my passion for working with those that needed extra help and support to be able to stay in their home and community as long as possible.
Now, talk a little bit about your career endeavors. You said you worked with Southwest Indiana Mental Health while you were in college. So, talk about your career endeavors between that and your current gig with Grad as Director of Waiver Services.
So once I graduated with my degree from USI, I stayed with Southwestern Indiana Mental Health Center and was a mental health case manager. So that was a little more where the individuals lived in the community in their own homes, and they would have a case manager come in and check on them, kind of help guide them, help make sure that they had everything that they needed so they could continue to stay in their home. After that position, I had a friend whose dad was on the board of the community or Henderson County Senior Services. And so I had applied for that position so I would be closer to home, and I got that. In that job, I coordinated senior services for Henderson County through the Gathering Place.
Okay, so you stayed home for a
that
bit.
position, yes. And so that position is how I was connected with Grad, because Grad does senior services and they are kind of the oversight for the Gathering Place. They provide the funding for that program. So I became a case manager with Grad to go in and get the assessments and home services set up for them. And that would help with like the Meals on Wheels and other in-home supports for those that need it. So that's kind of how I came to Grad and was introduced with Grad. And then I have been at Grad for 19 years. 2006 is when they started talking about this new program, which was the Consumer Directed Options program for Medicaid waiver. And that is how I got involved with the program. I volunteered in addition to my aging case management cases, and it just exploded after that. We continued to get new people. It was a program that was very needed in our region, and it gave people a lot of flexibility as far as who they could have provide their care. And so currently we are serving 750 participants in our 7-county region. So it's pretty crazy to think we started with just a few, and now we've grown to 750.
Yeah, that talk about explosion. So you've been involved with the waiver program in some form or fashion since its inception at let's say that was 2006. How long have you been its director?
As director, that's more recent. That's been within the last 3 years. We were part of another department, social services. We currently have 24 staff that do the waiver services through Grad. So once we got up to a certain number, they decided to break off and let us have our own department. So that's how that was created about 3 years ago.
Well, I'd say you're more than qualified with your wealth of experience in case management and work with senior citizens. I mean, it pretty much runs the whole gamut, to say the least. So, way to go! I know, monitoring 24 employees gets, I'm sure it makes your head spin from time to time, but it's well worth it, and I know it's rewarding for you in the end. Now, Sarah, before we dive into the nuts and bolts of the waiver program and its potential candidates, we talked about this a little before we went on the air. Your typical day-to-day responsibilities as its fearless leader. I know those vary, sort of depending on the day, but that's a good thing because it prevents boredom, and as they say, variety is is the spice of life. So, talk about the variations that you
Yes.
enjoy, from day to day, often in your role as director of waiver services.
Well, fortunately, I have amazing staff. If I didn't have the people that I have, my day-to-day responsibilities could be a lot more difficult. But we together as a group, we problem solve a lot. There's a lot of supervision. We will have different situations come up that may be new that we've not dealt with before, or it may be something that we deal with all the time. So it's a lot of just working together, problem solving, helping each other, and we work as a team. If somebody needs someone to go out and do a home visit, then anybody's willing to jump in and do that. So um, I have to say I'm very blessed with the staff that I have because they're all amazing.
And it
We wouldn't
just
be able to do
goes
it without them for sure.
it just goes to show that team chemistry is important in the workplace, as much, if not more so, than in sports, right?
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, and your office is proof, and it's great that you have that camaraderie, among the employees, and that everybody is willing to make each other's lives easier with a common goal in mind. That's what it's all about, Sarah. So why don't you discuss the inspiration behind this Medicaid waiver program and the manner in which it first came to be back in 2006?
So the purpose of the Medicaid waiver has always it has existed longer than 2006, but it didn't have that consumer directed options portion that I had mentioned. So traditionally, the Medicaid waiver is to provide in-home services to those that would need to go into like a nursing home or possibly go into a facility if they didn't have someone help them with their day-to-day task. So Medicaid was looking at it and realized that people should be able to make choices in their lives. They should have freedom in who and how and when and where the care that they receive is provided. So that's how in 2006 they started consumer directed options, which is now referred to as participant directed services. So sometimes you may hear people refer to it as PDS. But what that does is that allows the participants to hire who they want to provide their care, and our agency takes care of that payroll processing, making sure that they've passed the correct background checks, and then making sure they're paid for the time that they've submitted through the Medicaid program. So it's been a blessing to many people because there's a lot of people that didn't want an agency to send somebody into their home. They would prefer it to be someone they already know and are comfortable with. So that has been the biggest part of this program, has allowed that flexibility for participants to get the services that they need so they can stay home.
Yeah, stay home a lot longer than maybe they would be able to otherwise. So they choose who they want. Your organization gets them paid, and it's a great hand in hand joint effort there. So 2006 is when the participant directed option first presented itself. How far back do waiver services go? Do we have any idea on that one, Sarah?
I should have looked that up, but I feel like they've been around for a long time. They just weren't accessed as much because people just they didn't have that comfort with being able to choose somebody to come provide the service for them.
Yeah.
But we do still have people that works well for. So we also have clients that receive in-home services from agencies. We do case management for that as well. So I want to make sure that people know it's not just one way. We can make sure some people switch back and forth between the two. They may have an employee that's not working out for them and they don't want to mess with it and they want an agency to send somebody in, and so we can do that for them as well.
Okay, so if they want an agency to send somebody, you can handle that as well. Either way, if they want to choose their own or take their people as chosen by you, either way is fine, and either way works. Now, do we have a general gist of the average age for your participants there, at least in the grad region, Sarah?
Oh gosh, we have, and that's one thing that's great about this program is it's not based on age. This program, we will have infants all the way to, I think at one time we had 100 in the program. So there isn't an age. I would say probably the majority, depending on what the traditional services, which is what where that agency sends a staff person in. Typically, that's a little older age group because they don't want to have to hire somebody and oversee the payroll and submit timesheets for payment. And then the participant directed services may be a little younger ages. And then it also kind of depends too if you're in the Michelle P waiver or if you're in the home and community based waiver. Because those are a little different requirements based on, based on what that person's diagnosis is.
Mm-hmm. Qualifications are a little different, and we'll get to those here in just minutes as well. But it's great to know that between 0 and 110, that's a wide and flexible age range, and you always have outliers, but it's there's always exceptions to the average ages of people that need certain services. So it's great that in many cases this waiver services program is able to accommodate these individuals. Now, within this commendable program, Sarah, as you alluded to, we find 2 different waivers for which individuals may perhaps qualify. So why don't let's first describe the impressive variety of services available. We'll talk about the Michelle P waiver momentarily, but let's start out with the home and community-based waiver.
Okay. One thing is there are actually grad only does the home and community-based waiver and the Michelle P waiver, but there is also other waivers that the state does that different agencies do. One of those is called the Supports for Community Living waiver. One is the Acquired Brain Injury waiver. And then another one is Model 2 waiver, which is for people that are vent dependent. And that's done through more of like a private duty nursing agency.
Okay.
So there are a few more waivers, but GRAD just doesn't provide the case management for those. We do the home and community-based waiver and the Michelle P waiver, but the home and community-based waiver for people that are diagnosed with physical disabilities, and that disability has to result in them not being able to perform daily activities in their home. So they may need help with groceries, preparing meals, medication management, help with bathing, grooming, transportation. And with that program, their caregiver can provide all of those different tasks for them within that home and community-based waiver.
Okay, well, that's neat. And they can, of course, choose their caregiver if they want to, or have it provided. Now, you said over 700 some odd are in the waiver services program altogether there at GRAD. Do we know about how many of those benefit from the home community-based waiver? Is it about 50-50 or slightly more?
Honestly, the home and community-based waiver is where most of our growth comes from because up until recently, there's not been a waiting list for that. So just anyone that needed that service was able to get that through the eligibility and enrollment process. So I'm thinking we're probably around 450 in the home and community-based waiver. You're gonna make me do math, Sam. I'm not good at math.
No,
I would have
thought that math was your ultimate passion. The only reason you didn't major in it, Sarah, is because you didn't want to show up your fellow classmates.
You're correct. You're correct. The Michelle P waiver, we've got around 200. And then the traditional home and community based, which is where that agency staff comes in, we've got around 100 in that program.
Okay. So the vast majority of your clientele falls within the home and community-based compartment, which is great that it's thriving, and it definitely justifies the existence of that particular waiver for sure. But let's switch gears now, shall we, to the Michelle P. waiver, which even though those participants are in the slight minority at this point, that could change, especially as word gets out about this particular waiver and its many noteworthy benefits. So let's talk about the services available through the Michelle P. waiver there, Sarah.
Okay, so the Michelle P. waiver is for those that are diagnosed with either an intellectual or a developmental disability. A lot of those also may have a physical disability, but the primary diagnosis has to be intellectual or developmental. With the intellectual, their IQ does have to be below 70 in order to be eligible for that. So it's a little more stringent requirements than the home and community-based waiver is. They honestly have very similar services between the two waivers, but Michelle P. kind of focuses more on the community living side of it. So the purpose of the Michelle P. waiver is to help individuals learn and grow and teach social skills by taking to the movies or taking out to dinner and work on finances and how you pay for your meal, how you tip, how you communicate with the server. So it also provides behavior supports, which would be if there are any behavioral issues, there is a behavior support specialist that would be able to either come to the home or that client could go into that agency and they will assist with, trying to figure out why those behaviors are occurring and help train the family to learn how to change those behaviors or how to work with those. And then supported employment is another service that's offered through Michelle P., which is a great service to help individuals, get in the community and help them learn a job and be able to work.
That is very valuable indeed. So whether they be business or pleasure, this Michelle P. waiver helps work with the clientele on proper etiquette to be able to not only enjoy those, but communicate effectively and have the essential skills and tools they need to live life to the fullest, bottom line. So anyhow, you basically touched on the qualifications, and they vary between the two waivers, obviously. And so, depending on which waiver you're trying to investigate or that you're aiming for, you'll need to meet different criteria. But how does one assess whether or not they are eligible for one of the waivers? How do they go about determining whether or not they meet the criteria?
So the waiver programs are based on both the income and the need. So pretty much Medicaid realized that there are individuals out there that's income may be higher than regular Medicaid would assist with. So they developed the waivers to where if you have your income within a certain amount and you have that need, it puts you in a different category and it just goes by that one individual's income. So a lot of the time we will have kids in the program whose parents, are not on Medicaid, but that child is Medicaid eligible because they have a need for in-home services and their income, it goes based on that one person's income, which with most children is 0. So what I always suggest for people to do is to call our office and talk to our Aging and Disability Resource Center. We have a 1-800 number, and then we also have just a regular number for people to call in and speak with that person. So if that person just talks to them about what their needs are, and they may be eligible for other things that GRAD knows about or that GRAD does through our office, and they can actually refer them to any of those programs to help them get services.
That's neat. So there's an 800 number. They can reach out that way, talk to an expert. So there's not necessarily a case manager that comes out and does an assessment thing. I know you got case managers, but I guess they don't technically perform assessments.
Yes, so our agency does not do the assessments for the programs. That is done by the home and community-based waiver assessments are done by the state. So they have a nurse come from Medicaid that does that assessment, and that's so it's conflict free. They don't want us to do the assessments and then also do the case management. So once that assessment's done, it's done for the home and community-based waiver by a nurse at the state. And then the Michelle P. waiver is done by our Comp Care Center, which is River Valley Behavioral Health. So they have an assessor that comes out and does that. And then once that assessment's done and they've met the criteria for the program based on their needs, then that's when they would reach out to us and we could assign a case manager to come out and get the services started.
I see. So once the assessment is complete, whether it be from River Valley in the case of Michelle P. or the state in the case of home and community based, then the clientele would contact grad and get the ball rolling with the services and personnel that they need to assist them with their day-to-day tasks. And is there an application or anything else in the enrollment process that we need to be aware of?
Yes, so they will have to apply for Medicaid through the Department of Community-Based Services. They'll make application there, which when they contact our office, our Aging and Disability Resource Center staff would let them know that if they don't currently have Medicaid, they need to contact the DCBS office, and then they give them their phone number to reach out and go ahead and start that application process. And that's where they're going to ask for their resources, their assets. It gets confusing because sometimes they, if it's a household, what they're going to do is they're going to ask for all of that information for the household. And then they're going to determine they don't qualify because they're over income. But then they're going to look at, oh, this individual in the household has extra needs and needs in-home services and is going through the waiver program. So that person is going to qualify for Medicaid alone. So it gets kind of confusing in the beginning by having to do that, but they would definitely, need to reach out to the Department for Community-Based Services. And then while they're doing that portion, grad can be doing the needs portion where we do an application and kind of ask them what types of services are you needing, what are your needs at home. And then those two things kind of meet up at the state level, and then that will give them a slot for the waiver program. Now, unfortunately, as of right now, both of the waivers have a waiting list. So what that means is the state only has a certain number of slots available for funding for these waivers. And right now, all of those slots are full. And I know that they did allocate additional funding this year. So they've added an additional 250 slots, I believe, for both of the waivers that we work in. But there still is, we probably have 300 people that we're working with right now on getting their application entered and getting them on that waiting list. So it's very difficult to determine that time because it is based off of, as people drop off of the waiver programs, then the state adds new people. So it really just kind of depends on, and it's based on the state. So you could have somebody move out of Louisville and that slot opens up and it comes to somebody in our region because that person is the top one on that waiting list.
So it's hard to say exactly how long these 300 some odd people will be on the waiting list, but the bottom line, you just have to have those applications complete, one with grad, and if you're as part of that particular district, and one with the state. And of course, if you're not on Medicaid, like Sarah said, contact Department for Community-Based Services, and they'll get you rolling on that. And after that monotonous but well worth it process is complete, you can get on the waiting list, and with any luck, your opportunity to exit the waiting list and start receiving services and case management will be a lot sooner than you might think. Well, Sarah, I know this has been very educational and informative. We've all learned a great deal, and I know that a lot of our listeners will investigate this further, either for them or one or multiple somebodies that they know. And we're going to talk about now how you might suggest listeners educate themselves further on this program. You did mention the Aging and the Disability Resource Center. That's a part of GRAD, and there is an 800 number there. Do you have that 800 number handy, Sarah?
I do. It's 1-800-928-9094, or you can call 270-926-4433 and speak with someone from the Aging and Disability Resource Center.
Okay, so I guess that second number, the local number there, is just the general GRAD number, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you can ask to be transferred to the Aging and Disability Resource Center, and one of their experts will help you. Now, I will also link listeners to the waiver services page on the website, which, by the way, is GRAD, GRADD.com. And if you'd like to reach out to Sarah with any questions that you may have, I know she'll either be glad to answer them or refer you to the appropriate individuals to answer them. And your email address is sarah.duncan@grad.com, right?
That's it. And it's Sarah with an H.
Sarah with an H, yes, and all one word, no spaces or caps, anything like that. SARAHDUNCAN @grad.com. Well, thanks so much for coming on with us and enlightening us on this program that has meant so much to so many and will mean so much to so many more in the future. It is thriving, and I know that for that reason, it's not in danger of going anywhere. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed it, Sarah. I hope you've had fun.
Yes, thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate it.
Well, it's great to educate ourselves through you on this program. Is this your first podcast, Sarah? I'm just curious.
It is. It's my very first.
See, so we're making a little history. I love making history with my guests. It always makes me feel just a little more warm and fuzzy inside. Well, Sarah, we'll do it again. How's that?
Okay, sounds great, Sam.
Sarah Duncan is a blast and filled with great information. Now, please, ladies and gents, by all means, share this show with those you know who may be potential recipients of this waiver services program, or perhaps they may know potential recipients more so than you do. And I will link you to the waiver services program page on GRAD's website as well. I'll link you there in my show notes so that all you will have to do is hit that link and you can find out additional information to supplement, maybe even reinforce what we discussed today. And I will also include Sarah Duncan's email address in the show notes as well, sarah.duncan@grad.com, and you can reach out to her there as well with questions that you may have, or if nothing else, just to let her know that you heard her on Blabbing in the Bluegrass. I know that it would make her day, because she certainly did not have to come on. There are plenty of other ways that she could have been spending her precious time. So I'm so glad she spent some with us today. Now, if you know a healthcare professional, and I know you do, who has meant a lot to maybe not just your family, but plenty of others, you need to let me know about this individual or these individuals, because chances are there's a great story there that we all need to hear. And you can do so via email. My address is bluegrassblabbing@gmail.com. BLUEGRASSBLABBIN@gmail.com. And you can use that same email to let me know about your favorite local restaurants or musicians, authors, athletes, educators, healthcare professionals. I mean, our topics may be sort of all over the place, but the common thread is they all have connections to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and they all help to make it such a great place. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you don't via email, please do via the Blabbing in the Bluegrass Facebook page. And while you're there, make sure you like and follow it if you're not already, because any show that I've ever done is there. And if there's a special guest that I've had in the past you'd like to hear, but maybe you can't find the show because we've done so many and maybe it is hiding from you deep in the archives there, well, that's no trouble. Just let me know about that via email as well, bluegrassblabbing@gmail.com. Let me know about that special guest. Give me the name of the guest or perhaps the show if you can, and I will respond to you with a link to that particular program. And I'll do it for free. Of course, you're listening for free. Bottom line, you don't need to be concerned about money, okay? And while you're on that Facebook page, keep your eyes open for teasers that we put out for future show plans. We do that about once a week or so. And of course, you can make comments and leave those messages. So next Wednesday is October the 23rd. Many of you will be shopping for Halloween candy and costumes and getting yourself in the spirit. But while you do, make sure that you take us along, because you are the glue that keeps this show together. And when you are absent, it is noticeable. Trust me. So make sure that you come on back. Keep my guest and myself company. We value your presence more than you'll ever know, troops. So before we put this thing to bed, because mischief is getting a little restless over there, let's reveal the answer of the Bluegrass Brain Buster, which we brought to you up top at the beginning of the show. It is, of course, a healthcare themed question, because we had a healthcare hero spotlight on the show today. And I wanted to know which hospital has the distinction of being the oldest hospital in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Well, it's U of L Hospital. U of L Hospital has a rich history dating back 201 years, actually, all the way to 1823. It was originally known as a Louisville Marine Hospital, and its purpose was to treat the sick and the injured who were on their way down the Ohio River. Those crew members were forced off their boats in many cases due to falls of the Ohio, and they were left there with no home, no place to go. And so this Louisville Marine Hospital treated them with whatever they needed, and helped to provide them with a place to get on their feet, if you will, and get themselves established if they needed to. But anyhow, a little later down the road in 1911, this hospital housed the world's first emergency room. How about that? That was 1911. 30 years later, in 1942, it was renamed Louisville General Hospital. Wonder if that was the inspiration behind the soap opera General Hospital. Probably not. But anyway, it was Louisville General Hospital from 42 up until 83, when it moved into a new facility and became the University Hospital, and it was later renamed U of L Hospital. That's where we stand today. But that is the oldest hospital in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, originally named Louisville Marine Hospital when it first opened in 1823. Now U of L Hospital, the oldest one in the Commonwealth. So come on back next week for another fascinating brain buster, a whole lot more fun and excitement with a great guest. In the meantime, make sure you listen and subscribe to the show without paying one thin dime via numerous podcast directories. These include Apple, Spotify, Verbal, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Boomplay, even a few others. And I tend to be amazed at how often new directories are popping up. So if we're not yet a part of your favorite directory, I may not be familiar with it. So let me know what that is via email and or Facebook rest assured I will do all I can to make sure that Blabbing in the Bluegrass is accessible to you via that particular outlet as soon as humanly possible. So, until next time, you know darn well what I'm going to ask of you. Keep laughing, keep smiling, make sure you investigate the Waiver Services program, and keep blabbing in the bluegrass. 'Cause we're blabbing in the bluegrass. There's nothing here to hide, 'cause we're saying it with pride. Just a blabbing in the bluegrass. With knowledge of the state you're sure to appreciate. Yes, we're blabbing in the bluegrass, where musicians furnish talent and great whiskey cools your palate. Just a blabbing in the bluegrass, with a fit for every taste. Precious time is not to waste.
If you like the podcast, remember to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you really like the podcast, we'd love it if you could leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. That helps more people to find us. If you really, really like the podcast, then please tell someone about it, either in person or send them an email or just share the link on social media. Thank you all. Every bit helps, and it makes a huge difference for us. If you'd like a transcript, please send us an email to demandanddisrupt@gmail.com and put transcript in the subject line. Thanks to Chris Unkin for our theme music. Demand and Disrupt is a publication of the Advocato Press with generous support from the Center for Accessible Living located in Louisville, Kentucky. And you can find links to buy the book, A Celebration of Family, Stories of Parents with Disabilities, in our show notes. Thanks, everyone.
You say you've seen a change in me. Just for once I think I would agree. We both know there's a difference. We've had our curtain call, and this time the writing's on the wall. War of words we can't defend. Two damaged hearts refuse to mend. This situation's pointless with each and every day. It's not a game we need to play. Try to make things better, repair and rearrange things, but each and every letter spells out the need for us to open up our minds and hearts to change. Then what will be, will be. Disregard for good to set us free. There's just no way of knowing if love lives anymore. We'll turn out the light, then close the door. Try to make things better, repair and rearrange things, but each and every letter